YouTubers, this is Nana's Relate TV blogger. Hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Today I am going to be reviewing Ready to Love Season 5, Episode 9. The episode is called Out of Town and Out of Bounds, and boy was it. Once again, we are still in DC, and rumor has it they're currently filming Season 6 also in DC, so more of where that came from. I wish they would go to a different city like Chicago, Cleveland, North Carolina maybe, or even back to Atlanta, because these past few seasons just have not been giving, and I still feel overall the first two seasons are the best seasons of Ready to Love by far. So with that being said, this was the episode, of course, that Tommy had told the men by the end of last week that they would be going on a quote-unquote retreat and to pack their bags and to tell their lady friends to pack their bags. And I was expecting the house, it's considering they're in like the DC National Harbor, Potomac area, I was expecting this house to be like a wow, like a really nice, rental somewhere. And it just kind of gave me dated and old and yeah, it was just giving me nothing. It was just giving me very stale, very boring, very, like we just need this place to film and everything else. But it didn't give me the resort type of energy that it had, that other places have in past seasons. So with that being said, this episode starts off with the different couples riding up and driving up to this location. Zadia, Kamil, and Cornelius are in one vehicle, and that is just awkward because Kamil is like staking her claim and Cornelius planning their future, that they're gonna get a new house together. That kind of rubbed Cornelius the wrong way. And then Zadia made this weird comment that they were, the Brown Girl Squad, and that Cornelius wants to be the president of the Brown Girl Squad. And I'm like, what is this? And so Zadia said that her, Kamil, and Moomin are considered the Brown Girl Squad because they're pretty and they're brown and some other nonsense. And it was just giving me very immature, very high school behavior. Like, who does that? Who thinks like that? And everybody in the cast is brown. So what are you doing? What are you saying? If all the light-skinned girls got together, if it was like Sabrina, Sydney, Shiloh, they all got together and said, we're the light-skinned crew, or, light-skinned or us or something, they would be getting dragged all over, especially on Black Twitter, especially everywhere. And then there would be this whole thing about colorism and how, that people are using their quote-unquote pretty privilege. It would be a whole thing. So the fact that, I was really put off by the brown skin girl alliance or whatever they're calling it. Like, it was just very disturbing, and it was just very immature, and it just feels as though, and it's just another thing with Kamil and Zadia with this whole mean girl thing that just gives off just bad vibes. I think Moomin is only associated because of the simple fact that allegedly she is cousins with Kamil, but you can tell in terms of the actual mess and the drama that Moomin wants no parts of that. So then we also move over to Walter and Sabrina, who are also driving up together. And I think Sabrina had already revealed off camera that she was previously a stripper, but this is the first time that the audience is hearing that she's a stripper. And so she basically said that she was an exotic dancer, and then went on to say that she had been stripping for 10 years in a previous life. And then right after that, Walter shows up in the confessional and is talking about how it's a red flag for him, but it kind of didn't sound convincing. It just kind of sounded like he was saying that for TV, because based off of, how things were going on with his ex from the previous episode, it seems like Walter is like a closet freak and is down for whatever behind closed doors, but just doesn't want his business out in these streets. But I totally believe that he is not as much against, Sabrina formerly being a stripper as he's claiming on television in front of the cameras. I think that probably even entices him even more. So, but he likes to portray himself as like this good, nice, quiet guy, but I see right through it all. I see through all of it. A lot of the episode focused heavily on Camille and Cornelius, which I feel like is some foreshadowing. Um, Zadia and Bailao, it shows them talking. And then there was like a weird moment because you can kind of see the camera come down to show that they were filming the scene between Zadia and Bailao. And I just thought that was so ghetto. Like, what are we doing? Can we get better? So it was just awkward because you could just see it coming over the top of the frame of the camera in the episode. And I'm like, we've got to do better, people. Like we've got to do better. We have to be professional. We have to put out quality content. We cannot show, the camera and the different angles and things in the midst of these episodes. Like we got to do better. We got to lock it in. So anyways, Zadia basically was telling Bailao how she thinks that she started drama with Kamil and Cornelius because she was basically trying to see where Cornelius's head was at and this and that. And he kind of gave an awkward answer because once again, Kamil was coming off too strong. Then also we shoot over to Sabrina, who she is looking amazing. I wish we saw more of Sabrina when she first came on, but it feels like she's going to be coming in hot towards the end, so that'll be interesting. But it showed her and Frank talking and how they're just like really vibing with each other. But I don't know, there's something off about it. It feels like it's just lust. It doesn't feel like there's anything beyond surface level with the two of them. So I'm curious to see what transpires. I have a feeling where it's going to go. And it's not looking too good for Sydney and Frank. I think Sydney was into Frank more in the beginning because of the fact she was waiting to see what happens with Phil. And I think Phil at the time was more into Shiloh at first. And I think what happened, because it was like a weird interaction by the pool with Shiloh and Phil. He's like dressed down. He has on like no shorts, nothing. Like his whole vibe and like the jogging pants and the t-shirt next to the pool, literally next to the water, was giving me, I don't want this to be anything intimate between us. Because Shiloh was giving that, where are we type of question. And Phil's answer was actually kind of sus. It kind of gave me like Phil may have not as been into Shiloh as he once made it seem. I think that might have been on purpose. I think Phil was trying to show more affection towards Shiloh in that, because he also had other connections with Tasia and other females. So maybe out of that particular bunch, he wanted to show the most to Shiloh, to like let Shiloh know that she was like the top out of that group of females. But I feel like now that the numbers are dwindling down, now that more people have gone home, now that Tasia's gone, he doesn't have to put up this big of a front with Shiloh anymore. And also, I think something behind the scenes has been brewing between Phil and Sydney that we're going to eventually see this next episode. Because I feel like something has been brewing on the low between them, but we just haven't been seeing this connection, like for whatever reason. Like they've been heavily showing these other connections, and rumor has it that in all of these post-show interviews, Sydney and Phil keep referencing each other and all this other stuff. So I'm curious to see if they actually are the ones that end up together. And I'll give my predictions of who I think the final couples will be at the end, since we're getting towards the end of the season, thank goodness. Next, we move over to Moomin and Walter, and there is drama there because Moomin is noticing that Walter is kind of keeping his distance. He's kind of pulling back from her. And I think what it is, I think Moomin sees the connection that Walter and Sabrina have is a lot stronger than the connection that her and Walter have. But she is projecting, her feelings and her being upset about it onto Walter versus taking that information and utilizing it to cultivate her other connections, to try to cultivate her connection with Frank or try to get to know some of the other men, is how she should have approached that. Because then there was like another awkward scene because, Moomin is a singer. She sings, for different artists and sings gospel and everything else. And there was a scene where earlier she was playing with Walter and the piano and they were singing. But then later on, Walter was at that same piano flirting with Sabrina, and Moomin comes in, she tries to put her hand behind his back and behind his head, and he just has like this wall up, like you could tell his body language was just not featuring it at the moment, that he was just trying to have a moment with Sabrina, and then Moomin kind of just ran away like upset in front of Kamil and Cornelius, and it's like, you you intruded on their moment. Like, was he supposed to drop everything for you? Like, it just, I don't know, it was just very weird energy that was happening. And then in a nice turn of events with Mr. Dante here, obviously he has connections with Zadia, and the issue ended up being Zadia essentially ignored him. Like, the moment she saw Bailao, like, she wanted no parts of Dante. Like, we did not see Zadia anywhere near Dante for most of this episode. So Dante utilized that, and it could have also been strategic on his part because it was a week that Amian is going home. So he put all of his energy and focus into Aisha. Because if you'll remember, Aisha had some other connections, and it just seems like they might have fizzled out, or we didn't see how it all played out on camera. So they're flirting up a storm in the kitchen while Aisha is about to cook dinner. And you can see the chemistry between the two of them. And I know some people are a little bit concerned about this connection because of the fact that Dante has 3 kids by 3 different women. But also recall that Aisha is done having kids, so it could end up being, a perfect match, a perfect blended family type of situation if it does end up working out for the both of them. You never know. But you definitely you definitely see the sparks there. There's at least a very strong physical connection between Aisha and Dante. And I think the reason men like Aisha, it's that New York confidence that she has. She's so real, she's so raw, and she is like one heck of a personality that just lures people in. And she just gives off that sex appeal. So I can totally see why men are drawn to her and everything else. Then we come back to Cornelius and Camille. And it was so much Cornelius and Camille this episode. I was just kind of over it. But basically she bought Cornelius this necklace, and it's just another example of her just trying to lock things down with Cornelius and try to really make things a commitment between the two of them. And you could just see by his facial expressions that he is not featuring it, that he's very visibly uncomfortable. And it's getting to the point that production's asking if Camille is controlling, if she's possessive. And Cornelius just starts giggling and says, "Oh, I don't want to get in trouble." But your answer is giving away the trouble, that obviously you are too afraid to reveal how you truly feel about this, overprotective, possessive power dynamic that is just very uncomfortable to watch. So then we move forward to dinner. Everybody gets dressed up. Everybody looks really nice. And then it was weird because Camille and Cornelius, decides to sit down next to Camille, and she's like, no, I need you to sit across from me so I can look at you. So already right there, that was just telling me this vibe is about to be a disaster. Something's about to pop off at this dinner. Then afterwards, Walter asks for Cornelius to lead the group in prayer, to pray over the food before they start eating. And so Cornelius gives a really nice prayer. And so then everybody starts eating, and the food looked good. It definitely looked good. That macaroni and cheese looked good. Definitely looked like, whoever else cooked with Aisha, like really put in work. So then, Cornelius was kind of just giving an overall, hey, it's great that we've met all of you in this journey. And we know at some point, all of us are going to have to go. But I appreciate all of you. Now we're getting down. And then it was a cute moment because him and Moomin kind of like finished each other's sentences when Cornelius was like, yeah, we're getting down to cut the white meat. And then Moomin like said the exact same thing. And so then Kamil makes this comment basically that says, well, Cornelius, that's nice of you to say, but you have nothing to worry about. And, I've already found my person, which is you, and we'll see you all at the reunion because we're going to the end. And it just really made everybody else uncomfortable. Aisha interjected because she essentially was like, the thing is, the purpose of this show is for people to date multiple people, to have multiple connections, to wind down to who your strongest connection is. And, she could make the argument that Cornelius should be the one to go home because he doesn't have any connections with anyone else's there. So he's, taking up a spot for somebody who potentially could have multiple connections or potentially meet somebody if Camille and Cornelius are closed off from meeting other people. And so a lot of the cast this episode were really revealing their true feelings on how they feel Cornelius is trapped. Basically saying what I say, blink twice if you feel like, you're kidnapped under Camille or wrapped under her spell or something. And it was just very annoying. And Camille's all like, well, I can't help it if, I sprinted and found my mate and the rest of you guys are still in a marathon and blah, blah, blah. And so Camille totally set that up by bragging on her connection with Cornelius and then basically pass the ball to Zadia to then further ignite this ongoing feud and ongoing drama that Zadia likes to have with people. And once again, Aisha is her target. And then Camille just sits there with her weird looking faces and tries to play like she didn't just drop a bomb to set off to, basically antagonize Aisha once again. And so, it was just very annoying, like how immature, nasty, and inappropriate Zadia and Camille have gotten. And I was glad that the other ladies called it out, that Sydney called it out, that they were being mean girls, that Sabrina called it out, that they were being mean girls, that Aisha was fed up with how they're just, acting like they're better than everyone else, trying to disrespect other people. And it's like, and even like Sydney said in her confessional, everybody's not going to get along. Everybody's not, going to be best friends and things of that nature. But to give off this nasty energy that, nobody else is worth anything and it's the Kamil and Zadia show, like, no, it's not. Like, everybody is there for the same reasons. So for you to just act all cocky like that was just uncalled for. And then the worst comment was, Camille basically said that if Cornelius was in the bottom or if people try to send him home, that she's going to quote unquote F them up. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, who says that? This is a TV show. Like, if you and Cornelius have this strong of a connection, you can go home. You and him can go home. That way, the other people can continue dating the multiple people since it's towards the end of the process. And then they can choose who their one person is that they want to, quote unquote, be ready to love for. But to just come for Aisha like that was just uncalled for. And to say that you're going to beat people up, like, I think that just turned off Cornelius, because it was just very weird, and very odd behavior. And then Zadia tries to play victim, like she didn't, do anything. And it was just bad. And so it ended up being like Phil and Dante went to go, kind of talk Aisha down of the situation. And then Zadia tried to call out Aisha once again in the confessionals and say that, Aisha has diarrhea of the mouth. And it's like, really? Like, it's not even the case. And I think Zadia was just trying to be Kamil's mouthpiece in that moment, because Kamil's always the messy one and has been the messy one this entire time. And Zadia just wanted to also have her TV moment as well. And it was just very annoying. And even Bai Lao said, that Zadia can be extra sometimes. And it's just too much. And Sabrina was right to stick up for Aisha, that, Aisha didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve to be attacked just for talking about her connection being different than other people, and for her saying what other people think, which is Cornelius hasn't cultivated any other connections with people. So if that's the case, why should he still be there? If you found your person, why are you still on the show? This isn't the last episode. If you guys are happy, but if you guys are closed off to the other 6 or 7 singles that are there, that are trying to quote unquote date and, see if they're quote unquote ready to love, you're messing up their spots. Because you're basically acting like the show is over. And it's just very unfortunate. And so now I'm wondering, what's going on and how much production influence this is, because Courtney said in a recent exit interview that basically Kamil had a very strong connection with Corey, but was essentially directed to be paired with Cornelius. And so that could only tell me one of two things: that they obviously felt that since Cornelius was eye candy and he's also of the same fraternity as the host of the show and one of the producers, that there was probably already a plan in place for Cornelius to last for so many episodes no matter what, and they needed him with somebody that they feel was going to be for good TV, versus Cornelius actually finding a connection with somebody he wanted to actually pursue. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because now Kamil is giving me producer plant energy and not somebody that's actually interested in Cornelius anymore. Because it's just very weird vibes. And so then after that, Dante had a talk with Zadia, basically defending Aisha, saying you don't have to escalate a situation just because you would disagree with a comment that somebody else is making, because then all that does is just add complete gasoline to the fire, and next thing you know, the whole house is burning down. So Zadia, you could tell by her facial reaction, was not expecting, Dante to defend her arch nemesis, and then was not feeling him after that, and felt a certain kind of way. So then we move forward with Phil and Aisha at the piano, and Aisha has on these cute little silk, tank top and short shorts number, just showing all of her goods. And in swoops in Dante, looking like Prince or somebody. That's what Phil was calling him. He had on this silk kimono, with the kimono unbuttoned, so you see his chest and everything else, the abs and everything, and he's coming in we need to go somewhere and just calm it down, and I've got a little surprise for you. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not going this is gonna lead to sexy time. So Dante, he pulls Aisha, and he has set up in one of the rooms basically a massage type of setup, and they're just flirting heavy. It is very intimate. You could just tell it was about to go down, because Aisha's shirt's coming off, and then her bottoms are coming off as, Dante's about to rub her booty. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is about to go down, because then right after they said for the cameras to go, and I'm like, oh, here we go. It's about to go down. So, but it is what it is. I mean, hey, even though Dante, he has his own situation, with the multiple kids and multiple baby mothers and things of that nature, if Aisha and him have a great connection, if they're able to, forge some type of blended family situation similar to what Mario and Riva have done from, I think that was season 2. So, more power to them if they're able to do that. If they're able to, blend their families together and really just enjoy each other and love on each other. That would be a very interesting connection if, they can make that work. So it is what it is. I guess we'll have to see ultimately what materializes with that. So at the end of that, we go into the next morning, we go into breakfast, the vibe, the energy is very nice, calm, and happy because there is no Kamil and there is no Zadia there to cause any drama. So everybody is happy, everybody's in good spirits and everything else. And then I noticed Phil was sitting next to Sydney, who was sitting in between, Frank and Phil. So I'm keeping an eye on that. So then next thing you know, Nephi Tommy shows up, basically lets everybody know, as he had said earlier, that somebody this morning was going to be getting eliminated and that they have to deliberate, and he was going to talk with the women to see, who is going to be on the chopping block, and then ultimately they'll have to send somebody home. So Tommy is trying to get a feel from the ladies, what their connections are. And then it just turns into a little battle, so to speak, in terms of, Nadia trying to get in some of her jabs, and then Aisha saying what she needs to say. And, of course, Kamil comes in with the dirty looks, with the face that Tommy always calls out, because you could just tell he's over it. He's over these facial expressions. You could just see it in his face. It was just here we go again. So then it kind of got heated, and it got to a point where, Aisha was frustrated because she felt like people were coming for her processes, and then Zadia and Kamil were giving these dirty looks and trying to play like there was no issue and that she's taking it wrong. And so then, she basically said, Aisha did, that they were being aggressive, and Zadia took offense to that, but it was they didn't have the same energy when they called her some names, and it was just very bad. So then Tommy made them switch gears and just talk about who the guys were that they liked and who the guys were that they didn't like. So of course everybody goes around, says who they're connecting with. Moomin then throws Walter under the bus now that she sees that he has a stronger connection with Sabrina, that she wants him eliminated, but that's not going to happen because that's Sabrina's man. Unfortunately, but a lot of the females basically said that they wanted Cornelius out because this has been a long process and he has been closed off to the other women, and they don't know if it is because of Kamil, that because she basically planned the future for the two of them, that he is afraid to potentially talk to any other woman or get to know any other woman for fear of how Kamil is going to react, since the night before she threatened the ladies if anybody tries to send Cornelius home. So it's a very uncomfortable situation, because it's a dating show and nobody should feel as though that they should be tied down to anybody. The whole point of the dating show is to date multiple people until you get to the very, very end. So it was just very uncomfortable. And then of course, Kamil is giving the dirty faces because she's unhappy about the fact that once again, people are throwing Cornelius's name out there and this and that. And I apologize for the noise in the background. It is very windy today. So that's the noise that you hear. I promise it's the wind against the window at my house. So I apologize. But very windy today. Windy and rainy. So here we go again. Sorry about that, guys. I'm truly sorry. All right. So anyways, after that, Aisha talks about how, Dante really stepped it up with their connection. And then Zadia is pissed because she's trying to throw Dante under the bus for ignoring her all weekend. But the tea is Zadia was the one that ignored Dante first. So he used that opportunity to cultivate a connection with Aisha, aka also save himself. I also noticed this episode there wasn't much Shiloh, so I think that might be some foreshadowing in terms of the fact that she might be being eliminated soon. I'm hoping there's a double elimination for the females because I'm hoping Kamil just goes because oh man, I just can't wait to see what happens for next week. But anyways, the consensus was the two men that, the ladies felt the least strongest connection with was Cornelius, obviously, because of the Camille situation. And then they also mentioned Bailao because they felt as though Bailao just wasn't giving anything beyond surface level, and they didn't see anything beyond surface level with him and Zadia as well. So as a result of that, they put him at the bottom. So they had Zadia talk to Bailao at the end of the episode, and they had Cornelius and Camille talk at the end of the episode. And I don't know if it was editing, but I noticed Cornelius had brought this white flower, and it was the same white flower that he had the night before for dinner that he had set on the table, that he had also brought to this, conversation with Camille. So I don't know if he already knew that, potentially this could be his last hurrah on the show. But basically they left it as a cliffhanger, basically that people don't know whether or not, who gets eliminated between Bailao and Cornelius. And I personally just hope that they just do away with Cornelius and even Kamil can walk out the door with him. Because it's just the problem now is it's just not even entertaining to watch anymore. It is very toxic. It is very uncomfortable to see all of this happening, because it's awful. It is awful to watch. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I hope when the episode starts Friday we say bye-bye to Cornelius. And it's nothing personal against Cornelius. I could see that he had a connection at the beginning with Courtney, and who knows what other potential connection he could have had with other women. He did mention at one point he did also like Zadia. I still think Moomin was his perfect match because they both were on the same page with celibacy and everything else. And I think the issue that Moomin is having is the same issue that Liz had last season. I don't think that these females need to lead so early into dating somebody, specifically on a dating show where nothing is going to be serious or exclusive for quite some time, if indeed that person turns out to be a match, by leading with anything, that they're abstinent or they're celibate, just as it's the wrong thing when men and women lead with sex. Eventually it just comes back to, turn people off is the thing, especially if somebody is, religious and everything else and is not, living that kind of life or, doing any of that. So I think, once it was revealed, once Women led with the celibacy thing, you saw Frank, he kind of turned his attention towards Sydney because he was extremely physically attracted to her. And then you also saw Walter do the same and put more investment into Sabrina. So that was that. What do I think is going to happen? Who do I think the final couples are going to be? I think the final couples are going to be Sabrina and Walter. I think now potentially Dante and Aisha. And I also believe it'll be Phil and Sydney at the end. I think Shiloh is going to come up short. I think, like I said, I think something is brewing behind the scenes between Sydney and Phil that we just never saw on camera, for whatever reason. I don't know if they just felt like the Camille, or not, why am I thinking? She's just been, oh man, she's been all over the place. But I think probably because of the optics of like how strong on camera the connection looks with Sydney and Frank, and how strong the connection looks with Phil and Shiloh, that maybe that was the narrative that they were going. But it's clear that, they're not the case. Like, it's not the situation at all. That they're going to be going in different directions, it seems. So, because it seems in the previews that Moomin is basically letting Frank know that basically all of her eggs are in his basket at this point, and it seems as though Shiloh doesn't have any other connections. And I kind of feared that this was going to happen, that she was going to kind of go all in on Phil and not have any backup connections. Even though she had the connection with Bilal, it kind of seemed like they kind of stopped talking or whatever. I felt, now looking back, that Shiloh should have fought harder for Tyrone to stay, because Tyrone was truly all in on Shiloh. And I think he unnecessarily got punished and got sent home too early. And I think it was just because of the fact maybe he didn't understand the process or understand the show, and didn't realize it was too premature for him to close things off with Sabrina. And I think that ultimately did him in. And that should have did in Kamil and Cornelius. And I hope they're leaving together this next episode. I really hope that's the case. But it looks like things heat up next week with Sydney and Phil, and I'm here for it because they look like they have amazing chemistry. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that was all of my thoughts that I had on the episode and who I think is going to ultimately be the final couples. I think we only have a few more episodes left, and then it's going to be the reunion, of course, which I'm sure is going to be messy and everything else. And let me know your guys' thoughts. Oh, really quick, I want to say, I'm not sure if it was cut off or not, but I do apologize if you guys hear any weird noise in the background. It has been really windy today, and it was like raining and stuff, but if you hear any noise that sounds like a whistle, it is because of how strong the wind is against like the windows at my house. So that's like how strong the wind is outside, with everything with this winter weather that's upon us. So that is where that is coming from. So that is all I have. Please let me know your guys' thoughts. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I apologize if the video is extremely long. I just wanted to give you guys some meat because I know I was a little later from seeing last night's episode, and I just had a lot of things to say because I just couldn't believe a lot of the drama that I was seeing. And it actually really made me miss season 1 and 2 in terms of the fact that even if the ladies didn't like each other, they were still respectable enough to not, turn things into a hot mess, which is what this season has turned out to be on many levels. And people like Shatava owned her behavior whenever she was, acting out of pocket, acting out of line, and even just, removed herself from the show. That's what I appreciate, when the women realize that, people don't see it for them and they remove themselves from the show. That way they're not further embarrassing themselves or just trying to get, TV time and everything else. And I think that's the issue now, is everybody's trying to turn up for TV, and then they get on Twitter and Instagram and try to play victim. And that's what's happening now with Zadia. She is on Twitter responding to anybody and everybody that calls her and Kamil mean girls. And then Camille is on Instagram throwing subliminal shots saying that, people think that she's a threat, and that's why they keep talking about her. And it's like, no, people are talking about you because you're mean and you're way too possessive and doing too much over Cornelius. And he's visibly uncomfortable and scared to say anything because he doesn't know how you're going to react. And it's just very uncomfortable to watch. So those are my thoughts. And I will, as always, talk to you guys again very soon.